Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Quantum Spirituality right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest is Brenda Jacobson. We're going to be talking about her book, Soul Awakening, and plus numerous other books that she's written, but talking about that beautiful energy that we all have inside of us and how to ignite it. She said her journey cracked her open, revealing the body wisdom, the power of energy, and the incredible potential that's within all of us. After a life-altering fall down a mountain and a 5-year healing journey, she emerged with a radical, expanded understanding of human potential, physical, emotionally, and energetically. Blending 2 decades as a senior financial executive and deep work with overall wellness, emotional management, and energy mastery, she now guides higher performers to awaken to their quantum potential and live in the highest frequency. Her message is simple. Optimal health is the foundation of peak performance in business, relationships, creativity, and life. As the old world crumbles, which it's crumbling, a new paradigm is merging, one rooted in intuition, vitality, energetic alignment. New technologies are now available that simplify this journey. Through awakening consciously, I can help you. She said, I can help you break down from burnout, reclaim the health and energy, and step into the version of yourself that's not only successful, but truly alive. And as I said, we're going to be talking about a book, but she's got many books out there, which we'll also touch on today. And also some beautiful cards that we will touch on as well. They're taking a little backseat to that at the present moment due to tariffs, but we will certainly talk about that. And also, Life Wave, which is something she found really truly helped her pain level. So there's a lot for us to unpack here today, love. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so glad to be here with you.
You know, so many people talk about heart and spirit awakening, and so many people forget about the soul. And they don't understand the soul is where the wisdom is at. That's where it opens up to the divine universal knowledge, God, universe, spirit, source, energy, whatever you want to call it. Then it goes to the heart and truth. Then it goes to the spirit and action. And then it goes to the mind to find the clarity you need when you need it. But so many people kind of forget about the soul. And if we don't awaken the soul, we're not getting the wisdom, are we?
No, absolutely. Sorry, they're blowing leaves out my door. One of my favorite quotes is one from Albert Einstein, and he said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind a faithful servant. We've become a society that honors the servant but has forgotten the gift.
Yes.
That's exactly what you just described, is that we've been trained to start with the head.
Yes.
And that was my career as a finance executive, was all left brain. It was all, risk management, securities filings, blah, blah, blah. And it was very left brain, and the soul kind of took a back seat to that. And then after a life-altering accident, the gift that came out of that, after it was about a 5-year recovery, the gift that came out was that it moved me very firmly into my right brain. That's when I started writing and I became an artist, but I still use the rational mind to make sense of the intuitive gifts that I have. So it really does bring that balance of putting the soul first and letting the mind catch up with it. So it's really that yin and yang symbol, where you see the balance coming in that. That's the perfect place to be, but leading with the soul.
You know, I'm always saying that the universe gives us a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, go in a different direction. And if you don't pay attention, you get the cosmic 2x4. And yours was a wackaroo on a mountain. And the fact that you fell so far and you didn't break your neck is absolutely amazing. Right?
Absolutely. Like, honestly, I fell 3,000 feet down a mountain, tumbling, cartwheeling, flipping, flopping. Then I got up and skied 10 more runs and drove myself home from a 2-hour drive.
You didn't break anything?
I had fractured my ankle, but I didn't realize it until the end of the day when I took my boot off.
All right.
And so then I used my skis and my poles as crutches to get to my car and got myself home and went on with life for about 4 months. But what I had done was knocked my head where the head sits at C1, where it sits on top of the spine. I knocked it off by 34 degrees.
Wow.
So it's none of the signals were getting from my brain down to any system in my body.
Yeah.
So over that 4 months, every system in my body broke down to a point where they barely sustained life. Like I barely get out of bed. And that was, and I was diagnosed a year after the accident, and that was when the real recovery started. But it was, you know, I always teach people to change their language. Part of my teaching is, one of my lessons is changing from 2 to 4, moving from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
And changing that language from why did this happen to me, which puts you in a victim mode, to why did this happen for me? And because
Yes.
I taught that for so long, I got to that place. I mean, there's, you know, the worse I got, the worse I got, the worse I got. There was some moments of victim in there, but I quickly got to, okay, what was the gift in this? And the gift that came through was getting me out of corporate, out of
Yes.
that corporate job, which you're right. I was getting those small nudges and I was acknowledging them and saying, no, no, I need the paycheck. No, yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you, but no, thanks. I need
Yeah.
the paycheck. And then this, I even went through the big bat things and ignored those. This was the next level of, okay, you're not even listening to the big bats.
3,000,
No, no,
3,000. Yeah. Wackaroo.
down you go.
Really, have
And
I
it,
got your attention now? And
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
you
and it
didn't.
did.
You
It
didn't
did.
pay any attention to the pain.
No, and I'll tell you, I do not ignore those messages
Yeah.
anymore when they come through. I changed from there. When I did recover, I started, I created an emotional management training company because I realized that 2 or 3 of the years of my recovery was not physical. It was because I didn't have the emotional skills to move past the trauma.
Yeah.
You know, like I was stuck in that PTS part of
Right.
it
Yes.
and no skills to get out of it. I have the skills to get out of the other stuff, but and I realized that so many people that as I looked around, had fallen down a metaphorical mountain of their own, you know, job loss, relationship breakup, health issues, financial issues, whatever it was. And none of them had skills for that either. So I started up a company where we train the brain for emotion skills, and we took neuroscience, combined it with game dynamics, and wrapped all of that around emotion skills.
Yes.
And that's where the soul awakening cards came in as more the spiritual end of that. But it really does, the soul awakening cards are really the emotional journey through life.
Right, which I've got them all here, and I can't wait to actually discover
Oh,
how to use
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Because I'm always intrigued with things like this, because that's the
yeah,
thing, is there's messaging coming all the time.
all
And
the
just
time.
because it doesn't come mainstream, people ignore it. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, please look outside of the mainstream. The mainstream has caused the problem. You've got to
right.
take away the borders, take away the boundaries, and
Yeah,
and explore the other
explore
options
that.
that you don't know anything about. But the more you delve into, the more it makes sense to you.
Yeah. And the more brilliant it is when you look.
Yes.
Like when I start, I work with part of the soul awakening in the course side, the teaching side is I help people step into that quantum realm and create from the chaos of the quantum, bring that into an organization in a way that creates the life that they want, the next level identity for them. And I'll tell you that new world, because I visit that often in my meditations. I'm taken into that world, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's nothing like this world. We can't even imagine what is there for us. But if you can open up your mind and just go for a ride, you know, I was shown in my meditation, and I've been incorporated into my teaching. I saw myself walking down a muddy path, and I go through quicksand and I trudge along, and there was a sense that I know where I'm going and I know how to get there, and I'm just going to stick to it, stick down the muddy path. And then all of a sudden, on the other side of my vision, a really rapid flowing river opened up, and it was brilliant. Like it was sparkling and clear waters. and it kind of went down a ways and around a corner. And even in my meditation, I was kind of leaning to the side, trying to look around, like, where's that going? And then my guides kind of asked me, what path are you going to take? My first instinct was, I'm sticking on the dirt road,
Mm-hmm.
because I know where it's going. I know I can get there, and it's hard work, but I can get there. But the response that came out of I can't even say my voice because it was meditation, but my thoughts was, I'm jumping in the river.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where it's going, but I know it's going to be brilliant. Funny
Trust,
thing was,
trust.
about a month after that, I got a message to sell my house, and I'm going, no, I don't want to sell my house. No, thanks. And then as I said, I don't ignore those. I asked for confirmation and I got it. But I have no idea where I'm going. The house is up for sale. I have no idea where I'm going to land. Longer term, well, midterm, yes. Long term, no. Short term, no.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized, oh my God, I just jumped in the river.
Yes, exactly. I did
I
that in
know it's,
2017. I put
yeah,
everything into storage. My pets had died. I was finally, my kids are grown. And it was finally time I could, spend
wow.
time on me. And I went from British Columbia to Toronto, where my daughter was. And I thought,
Okay.
okay, Toronto, let's see. I was probably 30 years too late for Toronto in age, because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
fast-paced city, and my
It
daughter
is,
lives a
yeah.
fast-paced life. And also, it was too goddamn cold for me. But I needed that
Yeah.
to go down that quote river for me to
Yes, yeah,
sever where I had been, for me to remove
absolutely.
myself enough from where I've been so I could see more clarity. And then
Yeah,
it's like I've always loved Vancouver Island, and I know I have to go to the island. And so
yeah,
I just
perfect.
went over to Victoria, and then 5.5 years later or 6 years later moved down to Nanaimo, where I love. And
Oh,
now
lovely.
I really have found the place that matches my peace that's inside.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
the important thing. Just go and explore. You will land where you're meant to be.
where you're meant to be, and
Mm-hmm.
whoever I meet, whatever I experience
Mm-hmm.
along the way is, I just get the sense that it's going to be brilliant.
Yes.
Like it's going to be such an incredible adventure, but I don't know what it looks like. So it really is that leap of faith.
And the adventure,
Yeah,
the wonderment and the exploration of it, we've lost that, haven't
absolutely.
we? We
We
want
have,
everything paint by numbers and give me the map and tell
yeah,
me exactly where I'm going to stop for pee stop, where I'm going to stop for coffee
yeah,
stop. No, just go. There's
just
bushes along the
go.
way.
And I think that at this age, we're lucky because I don't have a partner. I don't have
Yeah.
my kids around anymore. I can pop, they're kind of spread across the country, and I
Mm-hmm.
can pop from here to there
Mm-hmm.
and visit, and who knows what will come up. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. And
it's
that's
exciting.
exciting. People forget about excitement, and that's because they are stuck in their head. I
Yeah.
call it societal expectation, where it's, well, you as a student, you've got to be an A student, or but you
Yeah.
get into a college, nobody will hire you, everybody will think less of you. You've got to have so many followers, you've got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to have so much money, you've got to dress a certain way. And it's like, oh, please,
Please,
please
enough
let go
already.
of that.
Yeah.
Enough of it already. Why am I
Yeah.
letting the outside expectation define my inside essence? Right?
Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to put it. And we have to reverse that.
Yeah.
We have to flip it over on its head.
Hmm.
And this is part of what I'm doing at this age, because we were never taught to do this.
No,
I
we
think the
weren't given
younger
permission to talk
generations,
like this.
yeah, I think the younger generations have it much
Yeah.
better
Hmm.
than we do, where they do start to identify with who they are inside,
Hmm.
and to heck with the outside world. This
Yes.
is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and let the outside world catch up with me.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a really healthy way to be, is let's just go where my soul is calling me,
Yeah.
create whatever I desire, manifest what I want, because that will change every step of the way.
Yeah.
So this is what I say: in the short term, I don't know when my house is going to sell or where I'm going to go. Midterm, I'm going to end up out with my youngest daughter and my youngest grandkids for a year or so. I've told them I'll come out and be a village for a year. And then longer term, I don't know. I don't know what that holds. And I
Yeah.
bet you it'll change 10 times over before I get there.
Exactly. And it's
So
okay. It's
yeah,
okay. I had my
it's
stuff in
great.
storage from 2017 until 24, and yeah, a bit
Wow.
costly, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It was all about, I needed to find my soil. And,
Yeah,
my daughter and son-in-law said, no, you're moving closer to us. We need grandma closer because I was
yeah, yeah,
driving constantly over to see them. They said, no, you need to be around the corner.
yeah.
And, my little grandson is 2. He has Down syndrome and he is the most
Oh,
delightful little boy ever. And he's a nana boy. My other
yeah,
grandson, we have a really wonderful rapport and play and go on adventures, but this little one is the Klingon.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we've got a third one coming up in October. And it's so, yes, instead of working 8 days a week like I was,
yeah.
and having no social life whatsoever, I only
At
work
home.
3.
Yeah,
I have 2 days solid with them. The weekends, very often, we're doing things together. I also have
yeah.
it, beginning to have a social life. And it's about balance. And it's, we
It
put these
is.
expectations on ourselves. And it's like, why?
And
Why are we doing this?
the joy that we get from the young ones, like
Yes.
they're so innocent and they're so pure. And I'll tell you, I laugh every day at the things that come out of their mouth.
Hmm.
When my little grandson was, what was he, 2.5, and I was talking to him on the phone, and he was walking around with the phone, and he fell down a step, and he picks up the phone, and he goes, "Are you okay?"
I love that. My 3-year-old, he was 3 at the time, said,
Yeah.
no, Lana, I'll love you even when you're not here. Right, even when you're gone, because we're
But
open about death and things and loss, etc. We're open with them
yes,
about it. And so
yeah,
although
yeah,
not 100% compound, but it's like, I know you're not gonna be here one day, but I'll carry on loving you.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But isn't that beautiful that they
Mm,
can be that
yes.
open with their words? And I think there's so much we can learn from them,
Yes,
and
exactly.
just in how to be totally carefree. And
I'm going to do a shameless blog post here, but
okay,
last year
wow,
I produced this book, Our Forgotten Children, and it's a anthology, 15 chapters in here, all about the raising of our children and how we make them
wow,
conform and how the system
yeah,
is doing a disservice to them and how we need to look at them as the gift, not only
yeah,
for the present, but for the future and nurture it and stop commanding something from them that's in a broken system. So I think it's,
absolutely.
treasure our children. They are here to teach us and they're here to be the future leaders. But what we do with them today will define on what they're going to be tomorrow.
Define that. I wrote a blog post called Turning an Oak Tree into an Acorn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that we have these beautiful, brilliant souls that
Yes.
come in with all kinds of potential and possibility. And then we label them. Either they're ADD, they're on the spectrum, they're
Yeah.
this, they're that, and not understanding that they're just ahead of us on this journey. Like
Yes.
their brains
Yes.
work different, their brains
Yeah.
work faster. They're multitasking all the time, and it's not familiar to us. So then we take this beautiful oak tree and try to cram it down to be an acorn again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I see that in so many kids, so many brilliant kids that I think that if we just embrace them for who they are
Yes. Yes. Like,
and
my
work with that
grandson
and learn
is,
from them.
that's the point. They're here to teach us. They're
Yeah,
differently abled. They're not disability,
absolutely.
they're differently abled.
Able. I
My
love that.
grandson is slower in his process. He doesn't know that. Oh, I
Yeah,
can walk now and I can climb now and I get into mischief now. That's all
yeah.
he knows, right?
And
And I've
everything's a
interviewed
brilliant adventure for them.
exactly, and it's an adventure for us watching them, have these achievements.
Yeah,
And I've interviewed so many people with autism. And I think the
yeah,
greatest lesson they have to teach us is they generally have found something they're incredibly creative at,
yeah.
right? They focus on that creativity. It gives them a great deal of pleasure. They have a small group of
Mm.
friends. They
Yeah.
don't put themselves in crowds and noise and places that are going to upset their equilibrium. And they live on a plane that honors their own energy. Shouldn't we be doing the same?
You just described the new world that I help people get into.
And
That
that's
is
the
the
new
new
world that we
world.
all need to step into. Yes.
It is. And it's like this beauty where the noise that we have around, we've become so used to it.
Yes.
But it's not normal. It's not
No,
healthy and it's not normal. But
no.
you get into this,
Energetically static.
it's
Mm.
yeah. I mean, and I can feel it. Any of those people that are empaths or energy
Hmm.
sensitive can, like, I've got people that just can't go into a mall, that
Hmm.
can't go into a restaurant because the noise, it just bombards them. They're not on the spectrum, but they're very energy sensitive. And I think a lot of these kids that we say, oh, they're on the spectrum or they're ADD or they're this or they're that, are just advanced, and
Yes.
they're already ready for the new world. Like they're the ones that are there, they're living there. The world just hasn't caught up with them yet.
Yeah, I
And
discovered I had ADD in my late 60s,
yeah,
right? And
uh,
dyslexia at 20. And it's like, it was always, I was never academic. Um,
yeah,
I contributed in a few of these books behind. One of those, I'm not selfish, I'm just not easily manipulated. And I made my chapter around how I was made to feel less than because I wasn't academic. I didn't finish
yeah,
school, I didn't have a degree. And so therefore
yeah,
you'll never amount to anything, right? And it
yeah,
was like, I don't understand that because intuitively I know what I need to know when I need to know it, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely. And you're
and
open to
it's
that guidance, and you're never,
exactly, and it's like, why is this dismissed? Why is this
yeah.
less than? And I've met people
And
overly qualified who can't have a single conversation unless they're referring to something that, a book or a person, no fault
and
of
that's
their
so
own.
much of the work that I do, but I'm almost the opposite of you. I came in very, very intelligent, and I created a great career in the corporate world. But I had to hide my
Yeah.
intuitive side.
Hmm.
And it kept, in my later years of my career, it kept sneaking out, like it was like spirit going, it's time, it's time. Because it kept coming out. And I actually had, I was a CFO of a startup company, and there was two other executives there. And I won't give you the details of the story, but this kept leaking out, and I kept saying things. And then they challenged me, like, how did you know that? How did you know that was going to happen? I went, I didn't know anything. I didn't know. And yes, you did. You do this to us all the time, Brenda. Like, we had this argument, and then we walked into the office, and the CEO was there, and the CTO that I was out with said to the CFO, or to the CEO, he said, Kevin, she did it again.
Hmm.
And he goes, oh, what did she do this time? Like, they're having,
Yeah.
I'm standing right there.
Yeah.
And she knew what was going to happen in that meeting before we even walked through the door. And I said, no, I didn't. And they said, Brenda, it's time that you own this. It's time that
Yes.
you own this, because by not owning this, you're cheating
Hmm.
all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
And
never
the
looked
fact
at
that
it
they were
that way.
embracive and they saw it was a
Yeah.
blessing because so many others choose not to acknowledge or see it.
Oh, absolutely. Like I knew when we had like horrible investors that they ended up going against my advice because I couldn't explain it. I
Mm,
said, all I said is, when I walk in that room, I feel like I need to throw up.
yeah.
There's something wrong with somebody in that room, because there was four different investors coming on. I said, I don't know who it is, but there's something wrong. Do not move forward. And they chose to move forward,
Mm,
and they shut the company down.
yes. I've
And
been there,
those,
done that, and then that's
yeah,
whatever company I worked with, I realized through my life I've been a disruptor.
yeah,
And it's, disruption for the right reason. And I've, three times been offered my boss's job
yeah,
when my boss hasn't done his job and I've brought it to the board. It wasn't tattletaling. I'm in a meeting and
yeah,
this needs to be done. Well, why isn't your boss doing it? Because he doesn't see it or she doesn't see it. So they've
yeah.
ended up implementing it, offering me the job. No, I don't want their
I don't
job.
want it.
I just
Yeah,
want them to do their job. And it was almost like then,
exactly.
well, that job came to an end because that's what I was there to do, shake
That's
things
it.
up. And it's
Absolutely.
go from job to job, and or your failure, you go from job to job, and it's like, no, but I served my purpose, but I couldn't explain it any more than that.
No, you can't. And you know what I would, if I gave a piece of advice to your listeners and to my community, I say, just own it. Own who
Yes,
you are, be who you are, and show up authentically. Because
yes,
I never did through most.
unapologetically too.
Absolutely. And I never did that through most of my career. I hid it. These guys,
Mm,
it was still another 8 years after that whole incident took place before I really fully owned it. And I only stepped into it because I really was so burnt out. I didn't want the job anyway. So I
yeah.
thought, what have I got to lose? I'm just going to show up as me. I was stunned by how well received I was.
Hmm.
Like, the other executives in the company would come and sit in my office, and just to talk to me, just to absorb the energy. And I'd have to
Yeah.
say, go away, like, go away. I have work to do. Like, what are you here for? And there was one guy one time, and I knew him, and he was a friend of the CEO's, and he'd walked out of the CEO's office, and I was in the hallway, and he said, hi, Brenda. And I was just standing outside the CEO's office, and our executive assistant was kind of in the office in between. And this guy walked probably 7 offices down to the end of the hallway. He stopped. He turned around and looked at me. And then he walked really slowly back and he came up to my shoulder and he just went. And then he walked off. And my executive assistant said, what the hell was that? Like, I don't know, but he saw
Yes.
something glowing from me because I was so steeped in my authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So, and that's the thing, the hand, actually, our brain,
yeah,
our aura feels a bit, you can feel
yeah,
almost kind of the burning in the hand. So, kind of him putting his hand to your
yeah.
shoulder there is like he was feeling that energy.
But
I
I
mean,
think it's because he
tapping into it.
saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Mm.
saw it from down the
Yes.
hallway and went, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And then he had to come back to feel it.
Hmm.
And then he kind of shook his head and walked off. But you know, like people can see it, they can sense it, they like it because
Yes,
when you step into your authenticity, you give them permission to step into theirs.
exactly.
And
You know,
now that's how the whole world elevates.
and that's how we need to elevate. My show this week was actually on the conscious rebellion, the
Yeah,
conscious revolution, and that the only way you're going to come back to what is going on, and that is
yeah,
so wrong, is accountability, is stepping up. You can't bury your head in the sand, but it's not with pitchforks, guns, or violence. It is with that
no,
higher conscious of accountability, love, compassion, empathy,
yeah,
kindness, but standing up almost with the mama attitude and going,
yeah.
you're going to say sorry for what you did and you're going to stop doing it because it's unkind. And we have to
Well, and
kind of
that's
step
it.
into that energy right now.
But when
Common
they've
sense.
had that experience, like you don't walk into a group of strangers and do that, but when
Yeah.
they've had the experience of you, your compassion, your empathy for them, your
Hmm.
ability to listen to them, when you come up and say,
Yeah.
they listen. They
Yes.
listen with that. And that's what I experienced there. And it was altering for everybody in there.
And obviously that was your nudge, nudge, wink, wink, but it took the mountain to cosmic 254 for
But
you to
yeah,
take that path, right?
you're right, because the mountain, I left there because both my parents got sick and I took time off to be with them. And but the mountain happened within a year, within that first
Mm.
year of stepping out of that, the mountain happened. And it was life altering, but by that
Never
time I
happens to you, is always happening for you. And yes,
oh
we need to
yeah,
have our tears. We need to adjust that the life as we've known it is gone. And then it's like, okay, all right, what's next? Where am I meant to
you
go
know,
now? Show me the
yeah,
way.
and I call myself an evolution catalyst because I help people, no matter what stage they're at, evolve into their next identity.
Mm.
Whether that's in the new world or just a stepping stone to it. But oh, now I lost my thought. I
Just keep on talking, it will all come back to you.
It'll all come back. I help them to identify some of those things too. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Part of my teaching, when I help people visualize and pull together an identity in the quantum realm, in this new world, then we have to go back into this world and say, okay, what are your anchor points here? What attachments do you have to this world?
Yeah,
And are those attachments serving you? Are they limiting you? If they're limiting you, how do you resolve that limitation? Do you have to cut them loose, or do you have to have a conversation and change it somehow? But we identify exactly what you were saying, those things that are holding you here, those
yeah,
attachments, and then we resolve them so that you can move into that. I had to laugh because when I got the message about my house, it's time to sell your house, I'm going, no. Then I went, okay, I got to take myself back. I have to practice what I preach here. I
yes,
had to go back and say, what is it about this house that I'm so attached to?
all right.
And is that, and the house served me tremendously as I came out of my accident. It's where I healed. I became an artist. I stepped out of my
A
CFO role.
prolific writer.
I started started writing, started painting, I created my emotional intelligence
Hmm.
company and 30 different decks of cards. And,
Yes,
there's so much happened here, and this house was a beautiful environment that supported me through that. But now I looked at it and I went, but now it's limiting me. Now my community isn't here anymore. My
hmm,
community is other places. And I'm being anchored to this geographic location.
Yeah.
And that was what convinced me, yes, now I need to cut those ties and jump in that river and
Yeah.
go wherever it takes
See
me.
where
But I
it
can't
goes.
go down the river when I've got, cement blocks anchoring me here.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about, it's a leap of faith, courage. It takes so much courage to do that. And yes, there's grieving. I
Yeah.
had to go through, and I the tears. I found I would be in fetal position on the floor. One day I was meditating, and just shortly after I'd made the decision to sell, and I was meditating and I was doing really good. And then all of a sudden, the tears just welled up from within, and I just kind of tipped over because I was sitting on the floor. I just kind of tipped over and curled up into fetal position, and I sobbed for about half an hour. And it was just the clearing away. And if
Yes.
you don't allow yourself to go there, if you don't, like they say that the tears cleanse the soul. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what they were doing, is they were just washing away all of the grief and all of the fear that was like, what am I going to do with myself now? And
Yeah.
what about this beauty? Like, I love my house, and like now I have to get rid of my artwork that's hanging all over my house because I
No, you
don't.
don't. No, you don't. There's things
Oh, I
called
have.
storage. You put them there until you're ready,
Well,
right?
you know what? The universe stepped in because I didn't want to stick them in storage somewhere because I was afraid they'd get warped or they'd get water damaged or something. My niece, who's just moved into this big apartment, half a block down from me, came over and said, "I've got all these empty walls. I'll hang your art. You can have it back whenever you want,
Right.
but I
Exactly.
need art on my walls, and I can't afford to buy it. So
Yeah.
I'll store it on my walls for you. So it's going to be hanging. People are going
Yes.
to be able to get,
Enjoy
whatever
out of it.
feeling comes out of the energy
Yes.
that went into that. They're not going to warp. They're not going to get water damaged, and I can access them whenever I want to. So,
A
so that,
couple of weekends ago, my daughter-in-law came over, and I had a shed full of stuff in boxes from for years now, and it
yeah.
needed to be go through. And I had, kids memorabilia. I had,
Oh yeah.
you name it, I had it. And she was very kind of Gestapo on me on what I got rid of, and like
Oh, I
the
know.
amount of stuff that went to Value Village and the amount of stuff that went to the
Yeah.
dump, and that sometimes you didn't understand the emotional attachment. Well, you can't use it, just get rid of it. And it's like, no, and
Yes.
I did a show on it, kind of, the memories. If that memory, having that thing brings me warm memories,
Yeah.
then and it's not interfering with anything, why should I let it go? Right. And that's the thing, is a lot of people, well, you've got a clean slate, get rid of everything and start again. No, because that means you're getting rid of all the experience that you've had that's led you up to who you are
Yeah.
today. And there's some things you want to look at with a warm heart and go,
Yeah.
good
Absolutely.
memories with you.
There's things that I had that I hadn't looked at since I moved in here 14 years ago.
Mhm.
And, like one day I went through, I think I opened up 70, like 70 frames that had 8 by 10 pictures in, every school picture for my
Yes,
kids, three
yes.
kids for all those years. And then my mom's copies of all of those, because I inherited all that from her. Like, my thumbs were so sore from lifting up those little tags and
Yes.
pulling. But I saved the pictures, but I did
Mm.
not need all the frames. I sent
No.
5 big boxes of frames off to Goodwill,
Yeah.
for somebody else to benefit from. Like,
Yes.
I don't need those things. But also, my attitude when I go through here is, if I haven't looked at it in 14 years, I
Mm.
probably will not look at it in the next 14
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So I did keep all of those, the ones, like you say, that were just so close to the heart.
Yeah.
But I had a friend, my kids weren't here, but I had a friend that came over to help me, purge, to get the house set up for staging. And she would just go, "Nope, that's garbage. Nope, that goes here. Nope, you don't need that." And I'm going, "Oh, look at that. I don't know, but nope, you don't need. When
Yeah.
was the
That
last time you
that
used
was my
that, Brenda?"
daughter-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you need, one of those people, because they don't have the
Attachment.
emotional ties
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, those memories go with us. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need all the pictures of my kids and my grandkids because I see them. They're
Hmm.
part of my life. I'd rather see them in person, but I keep them just in case I want to pull a file out, which,
Yeah.
it's a little file folder. It doesn't take up, it's not like 5 boxes worth of
Mm.
stuff. So I've literally, my biggest thing that I had attachment to was my artwork.
Hmm.
And other than that, I
Because
could
that
get
was
rid
part
of.
of your journey into your own self-discovery.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So kind of
Yeah.
getting rid of that is kind of in not acknowledging the journey to get where you're at. And it's the
Yeah.
same with all your books and everything else. So somebody said, oh no, all the books that you've written, we just get it from
Yeah.
them away, take them down. No, there was a reason behind you did the art. There was a reason behind you wrote the books.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're sharing your journey of self-discovery, of stepping into your own higher consciousness. And it
Absolutely.
shows the steps along the way.
But you know what I did with my earlier artwork? So I've kind of had two phases of art. My earlier, I call my healing art. It was part of my healing sessions, and they all came in visions. And there was a story that came with the
Yeah.
visions. And then I would take that vision and I'd paint it. And so what I ended up doing, somebody advised me, I wrote a book.
Hmm.
That is, and in this book, it captures all of my, so this was the first vision that came through
Oh, beautiful.
that, which is on the cover. And that was the start of my art journey. It took me a long time to be able to paint that. But, this was another one that,
Oh, I'm the year of
spirit
the
runs
horse. I love
with.
horses. Yes. What's the
Yeah.
name
And
of that
so
book for people just listening, love?
what's that?
The name of the book?
It is The Adventures of Nakaewa. So Nakaewa is this shaman,
Hmm.
and it's one of my past lives. So
Hmm.
this was actually me in a past life, and she's calling forth these animal spirits. And so that's the book is up on Amazon, but the artwork is available, and I gotten them so that I can do prints out of them. I
Uh-huh.
can do prints, I can do mugs, I can do
Yeah.
any kind of things. And that's up on my website that I'll give you the link for. But oops, sorry about that. I turned my phone off, but it's
It's okay, we can't hear it. The putting you under this genre, quantum spirituality, because the one of the things that I absolutely love is the fact that through quantum physics, people have been able to actually understand those that live in spirit.
yeah,
Through that quantumness, they've been able to measure people that live in that highest consciousness, that higher spirituality, and realize that they're resonating at a higher frequency. And at that higher
oh,
frequency of love and compassion and caring and
yeah,
consideration, you can't knowingly hurt someone else. To do so is to hurt yourself. You have now become attached to every living thing, planet,
yeah,
plants, everything.
yeah.
And it is so hard to go against any of that because that you feel the pain yourself. And
It
it's
is,
not
yeah,
that we want people to come up and feel the suffering. No, it's by raising the consciousness and understanding the quantum physics behind it, right?
behind
The
it.
energy behind it, and how
Yeah,
healing, how enlightening, how embracing it is really just shows us we are beautiful, energetic, spiritual beings having a human existence. And by living in
yeah,
that higher energy, we now actually understand why we're here, what we're here to do. I came to
absolutely.
this planet thousands of years ago, and it was always to do one thing: ignite the hearts and souls and spirits of humans. And that's what I've
Perfect.
done from one
Yeah,
lifetime to the other.
absolutely. It's a dichotomy, I guess I would say, because we have to, in this new world, and what you and I kind of go through naturally now is we connect with all
Yes,
of these other beings. It really is that we're part of a greater whole.
absolutely.
The other side of that, though, is we have to have our own personal boundaries.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you can get lost in, especially if you're an empath. It is
Yes.
so easy for empaths to lose themselves and just put themselves into everybody else's problems to try to help all of them out, including,
Yeah.
especially with our kids.
Hmm.
I learned really early on that if I tried to rescue my kids, which I did,
Yes,
and
yes.
I did everything, and I put myself on the back burner, but by doing that, I was taking their lessons away from them.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
couldn't learn their lessons, and I learned that in a really bold way. Like, my daughter bought a car from me, and when she bought it, I went out and I put a car starter in it, and a new tires and new wheels, and did all this stuff, and I sold her car for her, and I had this all set up. And I was driving down a freeway one day, and Spirit came through and said, you took all her lessons away from her.
Hmm.
And I'm going, oops, sorry, like, what
Yeah.
do I do now? Funny thing was that that a within a week or two of her getting my car. She was heading out on the highway for her first trip on the highway. I was out of town, her dad was out of town, and the car broke down on her. And she had to manage the whole thing
Yeah.
herself. The engine blew, like I had replaced the engine, the
Wow.
new engine blew, and she had to figure it out from there because I wasn't there to rescue her, and neither was her dad. And so I went, oh, it was almost like I was told, you blew it, you took her lessons away, now we have to do a do-over.
Yes.
And they took her through the same thing, and she had to call the mechanics, get the car towed, find another way to get out to
Mhm.
Banff with her friend, and she had to do it all. And
Yeah,
she did brilliantly at it. She didn't need to
exactly.
be rescued.
We've become so, mothering that
Yeah,
we were kind of, here you are, off you go, bye. What we're doing
yeah,
is giving them a backpack of wisdom and
yeah,
common sense and love and support. But yes, they have to go and fall. They have to learn to get back up. They have to assess themselves,
absolutely.
what's important. They're going to
Yeah,
go and have to make some faux pas and to
yeah.
understand, what not to do just as much as what to do.
What to
And
do.
also, how do they learn gratitude? I think so many young
Yeah,
people today have lackitude. I
yeah,
don't have, I don't have, I don't have.
yeah, yeah,
Give me, give me, give me. And if they were taught more gratitude for what they do have, they wouldn't be so lacking in their attitude.
absolutely. Um, when I teach people about, moving into this new world, sorry, that phone call, I don't know, my phone never rings this much. I've got it connected to my computer, so I got my phone shut off, but it rings through my computer. Um, I, I lost that thought too.
That's okay. Let's talk about the book then.
Okay,
Soul Awakening, Unlock Your Evolution to Wholeness. Now, you've got a whole stack of books here, like so many. The
yeah,
basic harnessing of your chakra powers, the harnessing of your root chakra,
yeah,
harnessing your third eye chakra, all of these things that are here. So many books. Obviously, that was a path that you were meant to take. But,
yeah,
let's start with the awakening, the soul awakening, because as I said, not many people address the soul. It's all about the
no,
heart and the spirit.
and what this is a combination of all of those books that
Mhm.
I've written. And this was more taken on as a fun project than it was a serious one, but it's probably one of the most serious projects for moving people into this new world. And it's kind of a tarot style deck. So you'll see in the book, like later in the book, you'll see there's different card spreads that you can
Yeah,
do.
right.
Yeah. So you've got the cards, you've got kind of what would be the major arcana cards, which is my um, the compass cards. And then all the minor arcana would be my journey cards, but it's the emotional journey through. So it's got, so you would use it much like you would a tarot deck, but
Mhm.
it tells you what emotions are getting in the way and what emotions came from the past and what emotions
Mhm.
you're moving into. And it's just a really unique way of doing that. So there's the cards in the book. And people can buy them separately. The book, for some people, they just open the book up to a card and they'll read what that card means. They'll ask a question and pull a card. And they'll
Do
look at that.
the number of the cards in the book align with the number on the cards?
Yeah,
So like uh seven of agility. So there must be, because I picked a seven in intelligence. Oh, here it is. So
yeah.
seven of intelligence. So
So you can
emotional
find them
wisdom.
in, they go through
Right.
the suit. So it'll tell you a bit about that card
Right.
and,
This
and
is a
then you
good
can,
way to start your day off.
it
What do
is
I
with one
need to
card.
know today? Right.
Yeah,
And then just
yeah,
cut a card. And it's like, okay, this is what I need to pay attention to today, because the
yeah.
universe is always speaking to us. And what it's done is giving you an ability to make it easier for people. Not everybody can channel,
No,
or hear the message, but this is another way of
yeah,
translating what they need to know when they need to know it.
absolutely. And they can do that with just the book, just by opening to a random
Yes.
page.
Hmm.
They can do it with the cards, as you kind of alluded to at the beginning.
Hmm.
These are printed in the US. Anybody
Yes.
in the US or most other countries are good, but up in Canada, they get caught in that tariff net.
Tariff
So
ball.
the
Yeah.
the it cost me more when I sent those cards to you because you won them. at on a contest, and I sent them to you, and I was shocked at the shipping cost me more than printing of the cards
I know,
did.
which is ridiculous.
And
And,
it's ridiculous, but people they can still get the same effect out of just open it up to a page.
what do I need to know? And then
Yeah.
opening up. I'm funny enough, I get 7 of agility. So full of
Oh,
sevens today.
lucky
So,
sevens. So, and then the other thing is that I always, with all of my training, I always encourage people to ask a question before they go to
yeah.
sleep at night, just before they go to sleep, because
Mm,
what that does is it sends your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind does not sleep. It
yes.
sends it off looking for an answer to that question.
Yeah. Up into the
So,
universe, defining
yeah,
what
and
it.
so if you pull a card saying, what do I need to know from the universe tonight? It'll give, you'll pull a card and it'll trigger some kind of thought that you can send off send off to your subconscious mind so that it can do the work while you're sleeping.
Yeah, instead of
Uh,
artificial intelligence, it's universal intelligence,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is
exactly.
collective of multiple universes out there. And it always has an answer. But yes, we do
Yeah,
have to be clear on our question, right? Don't ask a
absolutely.
question that has a question in the question,
Yeah,
because that's confusing. Be very clear on what you ask.
absolutely. And like I have a lot of different, like when I talk about the muddy road and the river, I'll send people off to look at their own river. Like just
Yes.
imagine that and find out what you need in order to move down the right path, and what's the right
Mm,
path for you, and where is it going, and you'll get it in a dream, or you'll get it in, I usually say within 3 days. It might not be that night or the next
yeah.
day or the next day. I find that as I'm becoming more accustomed, like it's just almost a part of me, my answers come very quickly.
Mhm.
When I got the message to sell my house, I went, I need validation. I need to know, am I supposed to be coming, going,
Mm,
buying or selling, renting? Like,
right.
I need an answer. And the very next day I got an answer in my
Right.
email the next day.
But
So,
you've got that channel now, and that
yeah,
the more you do this, the more you immerse yourself into that open channel. It's
yeah,
like direct, it's for so long, in order to speak to God or godlike essence, you had to go through the church,
through the
right?
church,
There
yeah, through
wasn't a
somebody
direct
else.
channel. Well, there's always been
Yeah,
a direct channel. It's
yeah,
just the church wanted to define what that message was for you to keep you in control. So,
absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
it is the and it has no agenda other than
Yeah,
to serve you in the best way that it can.
that it
It's not
can,
out
yeah.
to get you or trip you up. It's out to show you your path. And sometimes it might
And
lead to you falling on your backside, because that's what you're meant to do right now, because you're not paying attention to the nudge, nudge, wink,
absolutely.
wink.
And there's something for you to learn through that.
Yes.
For many of us that show up as coaches or facilitators or mentors, you can't be in that position unless you have some life experience.
Yeah.
And like I've got one of my grandsons has had a horrendous journey through his life. And I kept saying to him, you needed this, because I see you being a real powerhouse leader out there. And if you're going to
Mm,
lead people, you have to have this
yes.
experience.
You
And
have
so
to know
even
the
though he
struggles.
got this, in his early teen years,
Mhm.
it's setting him up brilliantly as he moves into his young adulthood to be this source of wisdom, that wisdom that kid gained over 6 years
Mhm.
of hell
Yeah.
has set him up to be one of the most brilliant potential leaders of the future,
Yeah.
at a very young age.
Yep. That's my son.
So,
He went
yeah,
down a path and I said, I love you. I don't like where you're going. I can't be a part of it. When you choose to come back, I'll be here for you, but I can't condone that. And eventually he had a crossroads, and it was, I can't do this to my mom. It will break her heart. And
yeah,
decided to take a different road. And now he's a community leader. He's a restaurateur,
perfect.
and he's, just really well respected in his community as that leader, because everybody knows that he comes from the heart. And whenever I'm
Yeah.
there, although we may not look alike because he's half Chinese, people
Oh,
automatically know that he's my son, because they say, I
wow.
can feel the heart,
It's the
right?
energy
So,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had a really funny thing happen early in my journey. I was just coming out of my marriage and trying to figure out who I was. And in that marriage, I took a back seat. I was kind of a wallflower, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I just kind of hung back in the shadows.
Yes.
And that's how everybody knew me, was that. And then after I'd been, separated or away from that for a couple of years, I'd really come into my own. And I showed up at a very good friend's 50th birthday party, and we were friends since high school. And I was friends with his brother and his brother's wife. And the first thing that happened was I walked, it was a surprise party for my friend, and it was away. So but his brother invited me, and I just got up to where I was going, and I walked into their house, and his wife was in the kitchen. And I said, hey, so-and-so, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, I'm doing good. And then this Dave walked in and goes, he called me, oh, my pretty, you made it. And I laughed, and his wife went, oh my God, Brenda. And I said, yeah. And I mean, I've been talking to him for like 10 minutes. And she goes, I had no idea who you were. Like, I was sitting here going, who is this strange woman standing in my kitchen talking to me? But I hadn't changed physically.
No, no.
And then we went to
Orally.
a party that night, and there was other people there that had no idea who I was until I laughed.
Yeah.
Because the laugh comes from that
Yeah.
authentic core.
Yes.
And I had like another really close friend. And I said, hey, Brian, how are you doing? And he goes, I should know you, right? And I'm going, yeah. Like, I'd seen him a couple of years, like 18 months before, and we'd had a beautiful talk. And I hadn't changed physically,
Yes.
but they did not recognize who I was. And that was the most solid evidence for me that people don't see your physical body, they
No.
see your aura, what you're
Yes.
projecting.
Yes. The essence
And
of you. What
yeah,
energy do you reside
absolutely.
in? Yes.
Absolutely. That always leads the way.
Yeah. And there's some people that don't want to see it, right?
No,
They don't want to see it because it is you're shedding light on what's lacking in them. And
it's
it's,
uncomfortable.
because inspiration begets invitation. But if they don't like the invite, no, because that means I've got to do work on me. That means I've got to take this path and I don't want to. I still want to
No.
blame somebody for it?
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people that when you're on this spiritual journey and you're moving up, I equate it to a ladder. You're moving up the ladder, that you can relate really well to people within two rungs of where
Mhm.
you're at. So two rungs below you, you make an excellent guide and teacher for them.
Yeah.
Two rungs above you, they make an excellent guide and teacher for you.
Yes.
But if you start associating with people that are more than that, like 3 or 4 rungs below you, they can't they can't relate to you. They can't cope. So what they'll do is they'll try desperately to pull you down
Exactly.
because they're really uncomfortable with what they're experiencing of you here.
Yeah.
And so they'll criticize you, or they'll
Yeah.
try to make you feel insecure, or
Mhm.
they'll do something that pulls you down so that you're not flying
At
as
their
high as you
level,
were.
yeah, because they're not willing to rise. I call that the sunny side of the street. So
Yeah,
one side of the street is dark. The
yeah,
road is there showing you the way forward. On the other side is the sunshine, waiting and begging you to come out of the dark. You
yeah,
can't help anyone until they're on the street. When they've
right.
come out of the dark, they're on the street. Now you're
Yeah,
there to say, I can now share my skills and tools with you. How
yeah,
you use them and how
that's
they
true.
serve you is up to you. All I'm here to do is to share what worked with me
Yeah,
to help see if it works for you. But everything is free will. I used to go into the darkness to pull people out only to be consumed. And you
no,
can't
you
do
can't.
that. It has to be that free will.
Yeah, yeah.
And you all
And that's
get
where the
people. Yeah.
boundaries come in.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There
The
is that
more the
protection of your energy.
yeah, the more you get clear on defining who you are,
Yeah.
and that's an evolution because it's always changing.
Yes.
But it's kind of what I help guide people through. I call myself that evolution catalyst because I'll help take them from wherever. And you kind of will go so far, and then you have to stop there and get used to that and figure out your boundaries and how
Mhm.
you're going to show up and what skills you have that work at that level, what weaknesses you have to overcome, because they're in there lies your lessons. And then they're ready to go to the next level.
Mhm.
But when I was going through this, I mean, it took me 20 years to get from here to here, and now people are doing that in a couple of months. The time is
Because we
moving
we
so
we we
fast.
turned the volume up.
Yeah,
I've been saying it now for probably about 10 years. The universe is turning the volume up on us one notch at a
yeah,
time. right?
Yeah.
And, for our generation, I'm 70. So for my generation, permission to be who you are. And I was always the
Oh, yeah.
spiritual being, and always kind of looked as different, odd. I didn't fit in. I wasn't the same. They would come to me for advice, and I would download what they needed to know. It didn't come from me; it came from the channeling. And
Yeah.
but then they didn't want anything to do with me because I was different. I didn't want people to know they had
I
come to me,
know.
right? So
I know.
nowadays, look at how many more people are meditating, doing yoga,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
opening up to the channeling, opening up to the energy around, choosing
Yeah.
to talk energetically,
And
right?
just that
It's changing.
language has changed. Like there was
Yes,
words that were so taboo. I
absolutely.
remember in my corporate early days, corporate days, and I was just working into this spiritual stuff. And I had a couple of good friends that had recommended me for a job. And I went for an interview and they came out and they told me, they said, you kind of blew it, you because you got to watch what you say and how you show up
Mm,
because you just lost a perfect opportunity for you because of whatever I'd said in there.
yeah.
And I said, how do you get that? How do you, by me showing up as me
Yes,
and not getting an opportunity, how does your mind get that that would be a perfect opportunity for me when I can't even be me to take that opportunity?
exactly.
Like what is
Right.
wrong with your head?
Yeah, exactly.
And they just kind of pulled back and they went, wow, you're absolutely right. Like, you're absolutely right with that. And I said, I would have gotten into that job and they would have been miserable with me and I would have been miserable with them because
Exactly.
I can only pretend for so long.
Exactly.
And I said, I think it's a blessing for all of us that I did not get that job.
Yeah.
And I just, that experience changed them because they looked
Yes.
at it from a totally different, like, how could this be perfect for me when it doesn't fit who I am? So,
There's a perfect thing. It's 55% of your body action and energy when you walk into a room is felt, right? It's
uh,
not what you're wearing. You could walk in with a clean shirt and jeans,
yeah,
but that's who you are. You own it. They're feeling your essence. 38% is your tone of voice. You've set the stage of how they're going to listen to you, and 7% is the content.
oh yeah,
Nobody's going to get to the
nobody
content if
cares.
they haven't bought the other percentage.
No, that's right, because they're not even listening at that
No.
point. So this
Yeah.
is part of my emotional intelligence work that I have. I teach people how do you show up?
Yes.
How do you listen effectively? Because so much of your conversation is listening
Yes.
and coming from a place of curiosity, not judgment. You can ask the
Yeah.
same question from either of those perspectives and they land totally differently. One, if you come from judgment, you get a wall
Mm.
thrown up. If you say the exact same words, but it's more the tone and the
Yes.
approach to it, and you say it from a place of honestly, authentically being curious,
Yes.
why did you think that was a good idea? What were you thinking? Why did you
Yeah.
think that was such a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go like, what drove you to that? Why did you think that was a good
Yeah.
idea? But really looking for the answer, not just
Yes.
looking to condemn somebody. Huge difference.
And
Huge
a
difference
huge difference in how we
in
speak to ourselves,
we do the
right?
same thing
Because
with
we've,
ourselves,
yeah,
don't we? Yeah,
I mean, my own, I'm still, however much work I've done, there's still some sayings that come up now and again where my own kids call me out on it, right?
yeah,
Because there's, it doesn't matter how much deprogramming I've done, there's still some residual there. And when you're aware, you care. When you care, you do something about it, right? But
yeah,
sometimes we do things unaware. And if somebody points that out, don't ridicule or beat them up for it. It's like, oh my God, thank you. I forgot that,
yeah,
this has become such an old pattern. I did it subliminally and
yeah,
I need to check
exactly.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's always good to have a wake up call. Like, I don't, you shouldn't have said that that way.
Yeah.
If somebody will say that to me, I'll go, how did they hear that? Like,
Mm,
because communication, the responsibility for your communication lives with you. So if you've offended somebody from
yeah.
it, a part of it is hitting their barriers, but the fact that you didn't speak in a way that got past their barriers, that lives with you.
And sometimes it's
Um,
just they're not ready to hear. Full
no,
stop.
that's
Doesn't
right.
matter what you say or how you say it,
Yeah,
it's not going to penetrate at all.
absolutely. But then there, you see, for me, one
But
of
you may
the
have
big
planted a
lessons,
seed.
yeah, the big lessons that we learn is before you give advice or you share
Mm,
anything, you ask permission.
yes.
Like, hey, Sarah, is it okay if I give you a solution to that problem?
Right.
Now you've totally disintegrated the barriers. Now they can say no. And I've had people say, no, I'm just not open to it right
Right.
now. And I go, great, I just saved a conflict just by asking that
Exactly.
question.
Yeah.
But other people, when they do say, yeah, okay, they actually listen to you.
Mm.
Now they're listening
They're
because
open.
they're in agreement with you. Is
Mm.
it okay? Yes, it is. You have
Yes.
got an agreement. They're going to honor that agreement. They're going to listen to what you have to say rather than just blurting it out
Yeah.
and then
And they're only going to
getting them
listen to what they
reacting.
can comprehend as well.
Yeah,
You may say it with this intent, they're only going to get a portion of it that they can relate to. And
yeah,
it's okay if they don't get the whole package, so to speak. If something has connected
absolutely.
with them, something's changed a perspective, that's
Yeah.
okay. That's where they're at. From there,
You
they can
know,
start springboarding elsewhere.
absolutely. And here's a perfect example of that. I was visiting my son. He had 3 young kids of his own, and he was making dinner and he was saying, God, I'm so tired. I didn't sleep at all last night. And I said, oh, does that happen often? And he said, yeah, like I'm just so stressed with the kids and with work. And I said to him, I've got a friend who is a heart math facilitator and he can, he'd get on a call with you and just give you some great tips for managing your stress, just breathing or whatever. And that came from the heart. Like
Yeah.
I thought, this is such awesome advice. And I knew that my friend would hop
Yes.
on a call with him. And my son turns around from the kitchen. He looks at me and he said, why is it every time you come out here, you try to fix me?
Yeah.
And I'm going,
Yes.
no,
I
no,
hear.
no. Like I was
Yes.
blown away. Like
Yes. Yes.
I said, I'm not trying to fix you. But he was pissed off at it. I literally had to take myself for a time out. I went to my room and
Yeah.
went, what the heck went wrong there?
Yeah.
And it was that but if I had said to him, hey, Jay, I've got a thought that might help you.
Are
Are
you
you
open
open
to
to a
it?
suggestion?
Hmm.
I think he would have said, no, thanks, given his response. He would have
Yes.
said, no, I'm good. But then we wouldn't have had that conflict.
Exactly.
But if he did say, yeah, okay, I would say, I've got this friend that can do this, then he's going to hear it and he's going to evaluate it without the wall of defense coming up.
Yes.
And I'll tell you that one little skill is a relationship changer.
Hmm.
If you're just conscious of making sure that before you offer advice or thoughts or anything for people, that you ask permission to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just a relationship changer.
I said it to my son once because I have fibromyalgia, and every time I saw him, Mum, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And I said to him, I just took his hands and looked at him. I said, please stop doing this because you make me feel broken. All I
Yeah,
need from you is a love and hug. That's all the
yeah,
medicine I need. And it actually became a relief for him because he was so
yeah.
busy trying to help me with my pain
Protect
and
and help
suffering
and
that he, he took it onto himself. But what I did is I released that burden. It's not your burden. All I need
no,
from you is a love and a hug. And that
yeah,
is something he could give me. Right. And sometimes that's, what we have to do. It's like,
yeah,
they mean well, but they may not understand. I get it all the time, and
yeah.
it's like you take in what you can take in, and it's also okay to decline too, but it's
Oh,
understanding that it's coming from a good place, uh, and for some people that just don't comprehend where you're at,
no,
right?
absolutely. But when you're aware of this issue with what
Yes,
we call corrective complex, always needing to fix, heal, convert, teach,
yes,
or direct people, when we're aware of not only our tendency to do that, but all of humanity's tendency
hmm,
to do that, then we have compassion for those people. So I don't snap back like
hmm,
my son did with like, why is it
yeah,
every time you
yeah,
try to fix me? I would have, you come back in a much more empathic way,
yeah,
much more collaborative with them. Thanks a lot for that suggestion. I've just got a lot of stuff going on. If it feels right at some time, I'll reach out and ask for his name.
yeah,
Like you can do that instead of, but people are triggered and so it's just, yeah, it's that emotional management is such a big part of our lives in every
yeah,
level. How we talk to ourselves, because we have the same level of conversations with ourselves
yes,
and how we talk to other people and how we how we share ourselves to the world. All is really, it was the gift that came out of that emotional management company that
And the other thing
Yeah,
is, don't take it personally. I loved Don Rule's four agreements. Speak your
yeah,
word with integrity. Do not assume, ask. Don't take things personally, and do your best measured by your own consciousness, not somebody else's
yeah,
expectation. And
absolutely.
I think they're
Yeah,
really good four agreements because, we assume we know what's going on, but we don't until we ask. We take things
absolutely.
personally if people snap back at us. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And they could have just been in a mood and not
Yeah,
ready to take it. And
yeah,
if we
yeah,
don't speak from our own authenticity and integrity and our own energy, then we're lying to them as well as to ourselves, right? And
absolutely.
so, and our best should only be measured by ourselves and our own conscience.
Absolutely. And then back to boundaries. When we don't draw proper boundaries for ourselves, people don't know
Yeah,
how to behave around us. And when we do create good boundaries, they can respect them because they can feel them. Like
yeah,
when you are clear on your boundaries, you project them energetically.
yeah,
And people just don't cross those boundaries. And if they do, shame on them. They'll
mhm,
deal with that.
yes,
But you're still left whole. But it also gives other people, when they see me, when my kids see me drawing boundaries, all of a sudden they'll start drawing boundaries with me.
yeah,
And now everything's defined. Like
yes,
now you know what the lay of the land is
yeah,
when you're out there. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think, another thing that for people to understand is as empath, as carers, as givers, we're always giving and we don't say no. And it's okay
mhm.
for us to say no and nurture ourselves, be,
Yeah,
really optimized in our own energy before we start sharing it out. And do not share depleted because, that will flatten you. And it's so
yeah,
much harder to come back.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And somebody said to me one time, that you should fill up your own cup
Hmm.
and only feed others from the overflow.
Yes. Yes.
And that way it keeps everybody whole. But
Exactly.
nobody benefits if you give and give and give and give to a point where you're depleted.
Been there,
And
done
now
that.
they
It
have to
ain't
start
fun.
taking care of you because you don't have the energy to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Like yeah, you have to you draw those boundaries. It's almost like I say to people, like if you were just pouring water and you didn't have a cup or a bowl or something, where's that water going to go? It's just going to disperse. It's going to go all the places it shouldn't go.
Right.
But if you can create a boundary, you create a cup or you create a bowl and you pour the water into that, now all of a sudden it's contained. And people know how to manage with a cup, they don't
Hmm.
tip the cup over, they don't bump into it. So it's really having that clearer vision of who you are and drawing those boundaries and standing in it.
Well, it's like having a beautiful plant. We
Yeah,
have to water it, put it in sunlight so it gets its energy. What pleasure do we get out of it? Is when it's in full bloom.
full
But
bloom,
if we don't
absolutely.
water it and nurture it, it's going to be dead and no one will pay any attention to
Yeah,
it.
and
So
a dead plant is not fun to look at. Yeah,
exactly. And then let's also talk on life wave. This is
oh
something
yeah,
that you found, which is also to do with energy. As
it
you
is.
said, you thought you'd healed yourself in that 5 year period, and,
Yeah,
and then you discovered once you started using life wave, which is all about igniting our energy and
yeah.
having it go through the body, how it changed your life. So let's touch on that a little bit.
Where I came across it was when I was teaching people about the new world. And when it was first presented to me, I went, wow, this is wellness for the new world.
Yeah.
And I said that for two reasons. And one is that they're little like band-aids, little
Hmm.
elegant band-aids, I say. There's nothing on them that goes into the body. They're not transdermal. All they do is they capture your own light with some crystals on them. It captures your own light and reflects it back into your body.
Hmm.
And it triggers, the second piece is it triggers your innate wisdom
Hmm.
to heal itself. So
Yeah.
when it produces these master cells, which can become any kind of cell in your body, it will decide, oh, Brenda's about to have a heart attack. We better go and fix that. We need to become this
Yes.
or that. And they will become those cells and they will heal whatever that element is and bring that back into balance. So there was the two reasons that I went, wow, this is wellness for the new world. I didn't know enough about it. That was just my first instinct with it. And then I kind of studied it and looked into it. Didn't even use the product for about 6 months. on my own. I had a lot of discomfort. I got to watch some of the words I use here. A lot of discomfort in my thumb. I had a tendon that they called it tendon scarring, but I couldn't put my fingers closer than this together. When I got one of the patches that works on the just the flow of energy, the congestion
Yes.
in that in anywhere in the body, but I put it on the acupuncture point here, and I don't know how fast it worked, but within an hour, because I wasn't looking, I wasn't watching, but an hour later I went, wow, I can use my hand. I can't feel where'd the pain, oops, where'd the
Pain
discomfort
was
go?
past tense.
Yeah, where did it go? And then I've been able to use my hand ever since. So that was enough of a selling point for me.
Right.
I have seen miracle after miracle after miracle with people that have chronic issues, whatever they are. And because it works with your body and what is
Your chi, your
what's
energy.
your priority,
Yeah.
everybody has a different experience of them, but
Yeah.
all of them are absolutely miraculous. So I've incorporated it. It actually started out supporting what I was doing on the New World. And now it's kind of gone like this to where I'm leading with it, because what I realized is people are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually exhausted right now.
Yes.
They're spending their day thinking, what's AI going to do to my job? When's the nuclear bomb going to fall?
Yeah.
When's World War III breaking out? What's going to happen with the financial system? They don't know. Like
No, everything is so up in the air. Yeah. But back
before
in
they
the
even get out of
pandemic it's a state of mind, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And before they even get out of bed, they're maxed out on their
Yeah.
stress level. So what we have to do is turn the temperature down so that they can actually engage in every other aspect of life, of work, of whatever that is. I'm looking to get into companies for this exact reason, because leaders are maxed out, the people are maxed out, and they can't bring in any kind of new
No.
strategies or anything because nobody has the capacity
Yeah.
for anything new. They're just surviving day to day. What I like with this is it doesn't take any time out of your day. You can stick it on in 10 seconds and let the patch do that work. But there's different patches for different frequencies of light, which produce different kind of peptides in the body. And it's just, to me, it really is the missing link. And I've run this by a lot of people, and they went, wow, you're exactly right. That's exactly what's happening out there, and what a great solution this is.
Yeah.
So and these are more corporate people in
Mhm.
that leadership role. People are seeing that, yes, the temperature has to get turned down
It
before
has to be
people
toned
can
down. Yeah.
absolutely ever engage
Yes.
in anything new. And I was experiencing that with the New World stuff, is that people loved it when they came to, I had a free 2-day workshop. They loved it. They just couldn't bring themselves to move beyond that because they have this going on, that going on. And that was when I kind of went into meditation, and I was told they're just not healthy enough right now. We
Yeah.
have to level up the health of people so that they can get into that new world, and they
Yeah,
can,
support the body so the mind, heart, soul, and spirit can work. You know, like
yeah,
everything inside of us, our blood, our energy, our fiber optics, our water in our body,
yeah,
everything has to be in flow. We're fluid creatures, and we should constantly be
absolutely.
in fluid. And if we start getting blockages, then we start getting
Yeah,
ailments, and dis-ease leads to disease. And
yeah,
so we need to keep things in flow. So, I know from doing the shows on the patch before, it ignites your own energy and kind of goes to
yeah,
where the blockage is and just
yeah.
opens it up so that the chi, the energy, and the flow can happen throughout your body.
Can happen. That's it, and it does it with light. I
Yes.
love that it uses light energy,
Yeah,
because light and sound are our most basic healers
absolutely.
in the world. Like ever, sound was the first healer in the world. I have great friends that do sound wellness, sound therapy,
Mm-hmm.
work phototherapy. People pay fortunes to go get phototherapy
Yes.
treatments. This is wearable technology
Yeah.
that at a fraction of the cost. And it uses the acupuncture system. So the
Mm-hmm.
acupuncture meridians, which when I was healing from my accident, that was my go-to, that was what got me, you know, over the hump, was using acupuncture. But it took time, it cost a lot of money.
Yes.
I had to
Yes.
get out there, and it worked slower. So
Yeah. Yeah,
This
I
is a
mean, yes,
beautiful
I
bridge.
mean that's the thing. The pressure point acupuncture is wonderful. I've had many a treatment in the past with it,
Yeah,
or people who are massage, therapists that use the pressure points to
yeah,
release,
yeah.
and it's all about knowing what's blocked, and then setting it in motion to release it. Because if it's blocked, it's just like a dam. Everything is going to collect. Then the flow isn't there, and you need the
Yeah.
flow, which is different.
But when you call on your innate wisdom to heal, to balance whatever's in the body, when you call on that as a healer working on somebody, I don't have to know was blocked because the body, the wisdom will go to that. The other thing, I got some energy healers that are working with this, and what they say what happens is they'll do an energy session on somebody and they'll bring them up to this point. By the time then they go home, by the time they can come back, or
Yeah,
2 weeks later, a month later, they're back down to where they were.
right.
And they said this works beautifully because I can bring them up here
And
to
it
do
can
some really
keep them
intense
there.
work. And then they maintain here. So the
Yeah,
next time that they go back for a session, they're now going up here. So it works for the individual going for the
right.
sessions because their dollars, they're getting bigger bang out of their buck.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, it feeds the soul of the healers because they don't like to just be doing this with people all the
Yeah.
time.
No, yo-yoing.
They want to step them up and see them progressing and get them into that, brilliant new world that we can get into. So
When the
it's,
body's in flow, the mind is open, ready to
yeah,
receive, and the soul, heart, and spirit wisdom can come through. But
yeah.
very often the mind is what's in the way, which is the old programming. The body is too much in distress, and that worries the mind. And so the soul wisdom and the heart wisdom can't come through. So if we can work on
Absolutely.
all of the meridians at the same time, now we're in
Yeah.
flow, and the wisdom just starts
And
pouring out of
it
you.
flows. And to be able to do that in 10 seconds a day, you know, which is really all it takes.
Mhm.
And then go on with life. It's just brilliant. It really is the new world of wellness as far as I'm
Well,
concerned.
energetic healing, and as you said, sound, um, even like water is an incredible conduit, and water has such
Yeah,
healing things, and sound and light and energy, all of that. The healing has always been there, always
yeah,
been there. We just, Western medicine came in, which certainly has its place, but it's more
yeah.
trauma based. It's more there to fix things when they go radically wrong. It's not there to help heal you after the accident or
And
sustain a good
keep you
energetic
well,
level. Be well.
keep you
It's not
well
there
and
for
get you
wellness. No.
getting more and more well. I thought I was in a good place until I started seeing the progress that I made from these patches, and I went, wow. Like
Yeah.
I can hop out of bed and run down the stairs now, where it was like very slow, having to get out of bed, push
Yeah.
myself up, straighten up slowly. Knees were creaking and hurting as I went down the stairs. And I'd have to, it was, a half an hour before my body was really working the way that it should.
Mhm.
Now, every morning, I don't wake up with any of that stiffness, any of that congestion in my system. I just hop out of bed and go, wow, like it's still a novelty to me,
Hmm.
you know,
Yes.
to
And
do that.
again, we're
So
meant to be fluid creatures. We're not meant to have
absolutely.
blockages.
No,
It's the whole thing about, enlightenment and stepping into that higher conscious plane
yeah,
in that beautiful divine energy of wisdom is to almost, I mean, I love traveling up into the universe. Up there, I feel everything and nothing.
yeah, yeah,
All wisdom is there. I know what I need to know. I have no body. I am at
yeah,
one with everyone, but I am
yeah,
singular. And,
yeah,
that's the beauty of it. And we want to bring that same feeling down into our body.
in the body. I've got a meditation that I did when I started taking people into this quantum realm that's called becoming limitless. And that's exactly what happens when we get out into that realm. All
Yeah.
those limitations just dissolve and
Yes.
we flow with it. So it's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're doing everything on every scale. The cards are a good reminder. They're the compass.
Yeah,
Where am I today? What do I need to know? Or I have a
absolutely.
problem and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it. Be clear on what you ask
Yeah,
and, allow the cards to speak to you. Or there's the book. Or the book and the cards. Whoop,
the
got me
book
right
is
the way
great.
around.
Yeah,
And of course, all the other books you've got, because, that's another thing. You've written a lot of
Yeah.
books on the chakra, and people don't realize how important the chakras are. I did a show many
Absolutely.
years ago, the clairvoyant chef, and she actually takes people's recipes from people that have crossed over
Oh, nice.
but
Oh,
and does
perfect.
the recipes, and sometimes they're very bizarre, but they
Yeah.
taste good. But also the other thing is that if we're craving a particular color, either to wear or to eat, is that chakra is needing more attention. And
Absolutely. And the series of books that I have up there that you were citing, the different chakras, they're actually low content books. They explain the chakra and then they take you through questions and journaling exercises that help you to bring that chakra back into balance. And you can buy one, you can buy the whole set. You
yeah,
can, start at the root. When you get through that, order the next one. They're like, I don't know, like $8 or $10. Like they're not much, but they're kind of a mini course in and
yeah,
amongst themselves. And it's made to take people through the basic levels of the chakras, because what's happened now as the whole world has evolved, the
yes,
chakras have evolved into higher
yes.
dimensions.
Hmm.
But we need the foundation in place
Yeah.
before we can, as that
You
platform that we
can't
can
tap in at
launch
the higher
ourselves
level.
on.
You've got to go through
Yeah.
the
So
the layers. Yeah,
this is just a really economical
yeah.
way for people to self-pace themselves, but to learn each of those chakras and be ready to elevate themselves.
And you've
So
got a book on there, Just Breathe. And this is what people don't understand. Like when we say
yeah,
to someone, take a breath, right?
yeah,
Just take a breath. And
exactly.
it's like by taking a breath, everything about you becomes more erected, and so do your chakras line up. And
Yeah,
that's when the energy in your body starts flowing through your body. That's where the clarity of mind comes to you.
yeah,
Do not make decisions, do not speak when you're in an angst state of
no,
being,
take
because
a
you're
breath.
shutting the energy down by crunching up and clenching up. We need to breathe to open it up so that that clarity and that wisdom can come through us. And
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing from what you just said is that when we're in a contracted state,
mm,
which from an emotional management perspective, we talk about contracting emotions, expanding emotions. When you're in those emotions like anger, fear, disgust, hopelessness, shame, your whole world just closes in. You can't see your way out of that.
yeah,
When you can, and so I take people, I say, just when I find somebody in that state, I just say, what's one thing that you're satisfied about? Or great
yeah,
gratitude, satisfaction,
mm,
great bridging emotions,
mm,
to bridge you into into the what I call expanding emotions.
right,
So things like trust and understanding and acceptance and joy, peace, love, all of those things. When you get into those, all of a sudden there's opportunities and possibilities that you
yes,
couldn't even imagine when you were
yeah,
down here. And that's where you begin to manifest. You can
mm,
manifest because you see all kinds of possibilities.
mm.
You just have to assess which one do you want,
Which
and
one
pull
in at the
that in.
core of you feels right, right?
Yeah, and then you
Trust your
pull
core.
that in, and that's how we build our new identity in the
Yeah,
in the quantum realm. So
yeah. And to understand we are all souls, reliving, having another experience. But the beauty about this lifetime over other lifetimes is the
yeah,
world is actually ready for whatever
absolutely.
doo-doo we're seeing out there right now. This is the
Yeah.
greatest opportunity for us to rise up into a higher
Oh,
consciousness,
absolutely.
because that is the healing, that is the enlightenment, that is the empowerment, and that is the
Yeah,
solution to the world's problems. This is our next
absolutely.
era. And it's
Yeah.
only through seeing troubled and the worst of humanity and seeing it for what it is and how detrimental it is that we
Yeah.
can decide to rise up and be the solution in a loving,
And
kind, cohesive,
yeah,
compassionate way.
absolutely. I love the way you put that. Um,
We're the problem, but we're also the solution. And it's
we
all
are.
up to our choice. What do we choose
And
to
being
feed?
here, being here at this time is really uncomfortable for people right now, but it is
Yes.
the greatest blessing. People will realize what a blessing it was to be participating in this tangible evolution of
Yeah.
humanity
Yes.
into something absolutely gorgeous. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's a great time to be alive, no matter what we're seeing out there,
yeah.
because as I said, I just did my show in consciousness, and it's the more we rise, the more we step into the loving vibration, the less their harm they can do to us. And
Oh, yeah.
the more that that love expands out, because I believe once you're in the heart generator, that heart keeps on giving. The more you
Yeah,
give away, the more you have to give away, the more it exudes and the more it grows.
yeah.
The more people feel it, the more they get ignited, and the more they start sharing it, and ripple, 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 ripple,
Oh,
ripple.
and it just, yeah, and it's like that snowball, right?
Yes. And that
Just gets
lower
bigger and
vibration
brighter.
can't touch the higher vibration because the higher vibration is purity. It's
Absolutely,
truth. So, which
absolutely.
part would you like to be in? In the dark and
Yeah,
angry and fearful and miserable?
yeah,
Or would you like to be in the light of illuminment where it just feels so
yeah.
purposeful and peaceful and vibrant?
And it's almost hard to find words
Yeah,
that describe this
there are,
world to
yeah,
somebody who's down here.
yes,
Like you can't even describe it,
no,
but
yeah,
it's glorious.
yes. I call it home. I'm at home with self
Back
and what
home.
I'm here to do. Where it used to be, I
Yeah,
resented what I was here to do because there
yeah,
was the pushback all the time. Now
yeah,
I feel the push forward, and the
yeah,
wind is behind my back. It's lifting my wings. It's allowing me to do what I'm here to do,
yeah,
and allowing me to have the impact I'm meant to have. And so this is a wonderful time to surrender to the divine wisdom and allow it to
yeah.
take you where you need to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the way you put that.
So we've got, obviously, we just touched on the basis of soul awakening with the cards.
Yeah,
This is a great way of just kind of knowing what you need to know right now, because when you hone in what you need to know right now, you can do something about it. You're not scattered
yeah,
brain, right?
yeah,
And learning to breathe properly in a way that opens up those chakras, learning to understand what the chakras mean to us,
yeah.
understanding there are energy patches that can align your body and support your body while on your spiritual journey. All
Absolutely.
of these things are energy, the right kind
Yeah,
of energy.
yeah, absolutely. So I will leave you with my website. People can check things out there. A way to contact me. And yeah, I think in my
So give
yeah,
us all of them, where people can get the cards, where they can get the books, where they can
yeah.
find you. You have the gift opt-in as well. Tell us about that.
Um, right now, it's kind of shifting because I have this becoming limitless meditation that, and I've got another meditation that I did years and years ago that went viral before viral was a thing. Like it just went across the planet before iTunes or
Yeah.
even really in the early days of the internet, and changed many lives across the planet. So I offer both of those meditations.
And so how do people get that? What is the name of your site? Where can
It's
they find the cards? Your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your XCOM,
yeah.
all of that.
Most of them is through awakeningconsciously.com. And they can contact me through that, or I will leave you an email. It's just hello@awakeningconsciously.com. The reason I say like I'm getting so much spam through my website that I almost have to shut down the contact page. So, but they can always reach out to me on that
Right.
hello@awakeningconsciously.com. And then, yeah, and
So
then I've
up
got a
here, they've
lot.
got your programs, they've got your EQ games, they've got the gallery, the testimonies, live wave,
Yeah,
blog shop, and that's the shop is where you can buy the programs and about contact
yeah,
and log in. And if you fail to get through, on the email, you can always reach out to her on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and also LinkedIn.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Lots of
and
ways to get hold of me.
lots of ways to get hold. And of course, the LinkedIn is Brenda Jacobson. That's Jacobson, Brenda
Yeah,
Jacobson. The X.com is drive through cards, Facebook drive through cards, and you've got the drivethroughcards.com, the Book of Doom's RCA deck, and awakeningconscious.com. And for the gift option, it's
consciously,
Hmm?
awakening
Consciously, yes,
consciously
consciously.
dot
Just
com.
not forget the Lee. And then there's the gift option, which you will find on her show page. That's selfdiscoverywisdom.com. You just put in her name and her entire offerings are there and all her information.
Yeah,
But, this is the time to awaken. And, this whole fear of, wokeism,
yeah, yeah,
it's like it is people so scared of it because what they realize is that they cannot control the masses anymore. We are in control of ourselves, who we are, what we're
Absolutely.
here to do, why we're here to do it. We're aligned with the consciousness. And this is, you can't hold us back. You know, the
No.
baby's out of the womb. You can't put it back, right?
Can't put it back. That's right.
So the
That's right.
awakening has happened. So however much you want to, reject
Yeah,
wokeism or consciousness, its resistance is futile. It's happening. So you may as well join it and understand why it's actually such a gift.
absolutely. Yeah. So it was
Well,
a
thank you so
pleasure
much,
spending
Brenda. It's
time
been
with
great
you.
having you and all that you're
Yeah, you
doing.
too.
And uh, everything is energy. It's everything is, as the Beach Boys said, good, good, good vibrations, right?
Absolutely.
And
I
thank
love
you
that.
so much, love. And so,
All
folks,
right.
until next time, understand there is always an option. Um, there is always a solution. It's that how much are you willing to come out of the dark side of the road, get onto the main road, reach out to Brenda on all that she does, all the
Oh,
programs
that's so
that she
cool.
has, and just dip your toes in the water, and soon you'll be up to your knees, and the next thing you know, you're immersed up to your neck, and you'll understand why. It's going to ignite you, and that's what we
Yeah.
need, your heart, soul, and your spirit free. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.